Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Paper Craftery, and today I am sharing a quick way to make a gift tag with your holiday quilling paper crafts. So I'm using these, they're called chalkboard tags. I got these from the Dollar Tree. I will try to find a direct link to those, or I'll find something similar, but really they're just a really thin piece of cardboard, and it has this little string on the end. I also pick up a chalk marker. If you haven't used those before, they're kind of like a very waxy type of crayon, more so than chalk, but they're good for this purpose. I'm going to be making some evergreen, so I have my light brown for the stem, and then green of your choosing. I have more of a muted leaf green, and then I also have a really bright holiday green. I'm going to use the holiday green today. You're going to want some embellishment. I'm going to be using some of this bright red for that part. And then as far as glues go, we're going to be using Elmer's in the needle nose bottle for the quilling part, but then some tacky glue when it comes to gluing all of this together. I'm going to be using a little bit of burlap twine. Later on, you're going to need a quilling tool of your choice, a small paintbrush. Also, some tweezers might be helpful. And I already mentioned the twine that I'm going to be using. That is optional. This is for the embellishment part, as is a crimper. I'm going to be using this for one of mine, and I'll show you how later on. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be making some evergreen branches for these little gift tags. And I actually have two versions of how to make evergreen on my YouTube channel. This is a variation off of one of those. Instead of making them into full trees, we're just going to be making the branches. So this might look familiar if you've been watching for a while. We're going to be making double thick strips to use as the branches part of our evergreen. And so to do that, you've seen this 100 times, is to fold it in half. Start running a very thin line of glue down from the half all the way to one of the ends, making sure not to skip any spots at all, and just a very, very tiny bit of glue. And then we're going to refold it and run it through fingers so that all the air bubbles come out. We're also going to be doing the same thing to the colors that you need for the needle part of your branches. For this project, for each of these small gift tags, I think I used one of these strips, one of these brown double strips, and I just ripped it into smaller pieces. And then I have two of these, the green of my choosing. Like I said, I'm using this holiday green. So I used about two of them. I'm sorry, three of them. Actually, I used three of them for each gift tag. So to make the branch here, I have about 1.5 inches of the brown, and I've already torn that. And then I have a full double thick strip of the holiday green. I am folding it, but not pinching it. I want there to be a little bit of a bubble at the end. And then I fold it backwards about 1/2 inch. So you can see there, that's where I folded it. And then I folded those two backwards. Holding them together again without pinching. I'm putting a little bit of glue right where they meet, and then I'm just sticking the end of my branch piece in that little spot so that it all dries together. The two green parts that are meeting will dry, and the brown, where it hits hitting all that, will all dry together. I'm going to set that aside. I'm actually making two of these exactly the same way, and then I'm taking one of that same length of green, tearing it in half, and then making one more branch out of each of those halves. So that's going to make 4 all together. After a few minutes, that branch is dry, and we're going to start making the needles. All that it takes to make the pine needles on this project is to fold the green strips back and forth like an accordion. So I'm folding it up, and then I'm bringing it back down again, and then I'm folding it up, and I'm bringing it back down again. And notice I'm folding it with my one hand, but with the other hand, I'm holding it all together. That's not super important. If that's kind of awkward in your hands, that's okay. You're free to let this just kind of bounce all over the place if you need to, because we haven't glued anything down yet. So if it comes out of your hand at this point and it kind of gets a little wacky, that's okay. because we're going to glue it down again after we do the other side as well. You get down to the end point. That's what that one side should look like. And then we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side. So we're going back and forth and back and forth, and you get the picture. When you get to the end of the green strip, it's up to you if you want to leave a little bit of a tail that's easier to glue at the end, or if you want to really make every single pine needle count. Right there, I probably can't get another pine needle out, so I'm just going to let that go. And it looks a little crazy, and that's okay. Crazy is okay sometimes because it's part of the process. Now we're just going to add a small amount of glue. Probably a little extra glue than I need. A very small amount of glue right to the end of every spot where it's going to hit the brown paper. And then it's just a matter of winding it all back up again. At this point, you do want to hold it with your opposite hand as you're folding it. Don't focus too much on what it looks like right now. Okay, I know it doesn't look like an evergreen branch just yet. It will come together. You just want to make sure that all of those accordion folds are hitting the stem, the branch at this point. That's all that matters. So let that sit for a second, turn it over, and then do the same thing. There we go. Do the same thing to the other side. So a small dot of glue right at the end of everybody and the tail. And same thing, we're going to hold it with one hand. Pointer, finger, and thumb are kind of sitting up a little bit taller to grab the folds, as the other hand is making sure that everyone hits the branch. Let's get that to set for a moment. And you can see I talked about using maybe too much glue there in the beginning. You can see that's coming out now, so just get all that wiped away. And then the magic comes in is when you pinch everything towards the top. It really comes together. Besides from not too much glue, comes together and starts looking like an evergreen branch. You're going to make a second branch that's exactly the same size, and then you're going to take that last double thick green that you made, like I said before, tear it in half and make two smaller branches from each of those halves. So you're going to have two large and two small. While those are drying, you're going to take your tag, and this can be any tag that you have available to you. You would use the same process. I didn't really prefer the string that came with it, so I took that off and I'm using some of this burlap twine, just cutting about 6 or 7 inches, making a small knot on the end. Sometimes that's tricky because this stuff likes to shred and get all over the place, but eventually, there we go. It'll all come together. And then I'm going to feed it back through the hole in the top and then get started on personalizing this tag. Okay, finally got that all taken care of. Now, personalizing, however you like. I found that using a pencil as an outline to start with is helpful because it really shows up on these cardboard tags, but then you can draw over it or erase it or change it if you need to. I don't have the greatest, most fanciest handwriting in the world, so I'm just doing a quick heart on here. But you can do whatever you'd like. You can do names and initials or words or little reindeer face drawings. I don't know, whatever you like. Like I said before, this craft marker thing is not the greatest tool in the world. If I was to do this project again, I would not use this. It's just a little hard to control. You have to go very lightly because it sort of crumbles a bit. It really stays on, which I guess is the point. I've made permanent chalkboard type signs before and used these, and it stays because it's like a wax product. But it's a little hard to control. So, use a metallic Sharpie or something like that. That's probably what I would do if I was making these again. But we've come this far, so learn from my mistakes. Anyway, so now I have my 4 evergreen branches. These are the smaller ones on the bottom. They just have a few less leaves. And then the larger ones, a little bit more full on the top. So what we're going to be doing is placing these around the top of the tags. We're going to do 2 on each side. The larger ones are going to go on the bottom. And I sort of made sure I liked the way each one was facing, that, I didn't have too much glue or anything weird was going on. And once I found the side I liked, I used a very small amount of tacky glue just where it was going to meet the tag. And then a tiny, 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 tiny bit right on the stem here. That's too much. It's a very gluey day here, apparently. So wipe that off, and then I'm placing that right on the edge of one side of the hanger part, and let that dry for a moment. And then we're going to grab the other long branch and do the opposite. It is helpful if you sort of bend the branch part a little bit. Your branches might be too long, so you might want to snip those to make them even. That's okay. We're going for sort of something like that. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue on that side and do the same thing. After the larger branches are on, you're going to do the same thing with the smaller branches. Choose which one you want on each side, curve them a bit, and then probably have to trim these down as well. I wanted them, like I said, to be smaller than the other ones, but they're going to each be going on either side of the string. The branches ended up being about the same length, so really what made them smaller is the fact that I used half double strip of the green. Like I said before, it just has less needles. And at this point, the tweezers may definitely come in handy because these are pretty small and sort of fiddly, so not a bad idea. This one is way too long. And again, just a tiny bit of glue on this part. You really don't need a lot of glue, just enough so that it stays together. And even though these are balanced on top of the larger branches, the tacky glue will really keep it where it needs to be, because that is tacky glue's job. Once your branches are set, then it's time to do the rest of the embellishments. And this is the point where you can really kind of go crazy. So like I said before, the burlap is a choice. You can also make a little bow to cover where the branches meet if you want to do that out of the same burlap. You can use any kind of small thread or ribbon or anything else. I also cut some of that red paper in half. Oops. Lengthwise, excuse me. And if you run that through a crimper, you sort of get like a garland type feel. So you can cut that into small little pieces and glue it so it looks like it's going up and over the different branches. I have one that's already done, so you can see that effect here. I also just added some small tight coils of the red to make sort of like Christmas balls. And then I have some other choices where are they? There we go. I have some other choices here. I have a little angel and some snowflakes. And then I also have, similar to the first one, but with a different green and a small bow. And this has the original thread on it. And then, as you can see, just the word joy there. So you can be really creative with these and make them however you choose. Like I said earlier, some of this may look familiar. This is sort of a greatest hits of different little holiday details that I've done for previous videos, but I get a lot of questions like, you know, I've made this, now what do I do with it? So I wanted to just take a minute to make a short video featuring, like I said, some of these other things we've done before and just a new way that you can use quilling that's not a card or just a piece of home decor, which is always nice, but it's fun to have different ideas of different ways to use these. And I saw the chalkboard tags and I thought that might be something different. So if you'd like to see how to make the angel and the bow and everything else that I showed in the video in detail, I will leave links to all those videos in the description box for this one, plus links to all the supplies I used. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave that in the comments section and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be here for my next video, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.